If you're by your heads, and pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity we have here to gather with one another and discuss the future of the town, and be with us all this weekend as we celebrate Memorial Day with our families. And let's not forget those who died in service for our country. Help us to walk closer to you, Lord, and forgive us of our sins, and help us have a great rest of the week. Amen.
Amen.
You gonna do the pledge?
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Nathan, you want to start off with
Yeah, I'll start off.
Nicole, that you want to get the approval of the minutes. You want to start off with that? You want us to approve the minutes?
Yes.
I would,
May the 5th.
yeah, I would like you to approve the minutes already from the previous meeting, because I mentioned in my report that Kimberly had been appointed as the finance director. Since we have a standing resolution at the bank with the finance director being able to sign for checks for the town, we just need to present them with the minutes to where I informed you that she is now the finance director, and you approve those minutes, so we can submit those to the bank and she can sign for checks.
Motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. No one is opposed. Okay, you want to go on to item number 2?
Yes. The second is a revenue recognition policy. It just states that if we collect revenues up to within 60 days after the fiscal year end, then we it just shows how we account for those. We recognize those in the current fiscal year. Ad valorem property taxes are generally considered past due at the fiscal year end, so those aren't counted as well as sales tax. And we don't have to account for motor vehicle property taxes, because those are typically due at the time the vehicles are registered. This will apply to all of our governmental funds and financial reporting. And I would like you to adopt and approve this today so we can submit it with our fiscal year 25 audit. Should be submitted this week.
And this is if whoever does not abide by this, it is a violation and it is a cost of $100. Am I correct? At the end of it, that's what it said. I guess that was any person who violates this article.
Oh no, this is different. That's just printed front and back.
Oh, okay.
It's just one page. This is just.
Okay. So that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah. If we collect revenues within 60 days past the fiscal year end, they're available to be charged to the prior fiscal year for most likely sales tax.
Well, that's why I was at. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Just wanted to clarify that.
Make a motion, we accept the revenue recognition policy.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion, questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? No one is opposed to that. So we'll go to the code of ordinance.
Yeah. I put these in here just to kind of get some discussion started. I'm not looking at bringing any of these before you in June, and then we don't have a meeting in July. So the first will be August. So I wanted to kind of gauge your all's direction and listen to your input about whether we should have an ordinance that prohibits the camping on public property. A lot of municipalities have done that since, almost like it's in the camp. And mostly it's put towards large camping and protests. So that's any public property. We can't really regulate it on private property unless somebody asks us to assist with the removal of someone they've asked to leave their private property. This would be like sidewalks, any property that we own, any property that the county owns in the town that they wanted our assistance with. If somebody were camping on their property, I put in here a chapter on food trucks and having regulations against on where food trucks can set up, how they can set up, grease traps that they're allowed to have. They have to have mats underneath where they cook, fire extinguishers, different types of right of ways. This is just taken straight from the one we wrote when I was in Bessemer City. So I'm open to discussion on any of them. Like I said, they're not ready to be adopted. I just wanted to get discussion started. And then I put our own traffic stuff in here that I found, the different parking schedules and where you can park and can't park. And then we have vacant building registration sheets, an ordinance against vacant commercial property and how you maintain it and make it appear as if it isn't occupied, to at least prevent it becoming blighted. So you have to maintain it at least to some minimal standard. So I'll just open up the floor to all of you to discuss any one of these. Or we can start it right, just kind of
So
go through
this
each one.
chapter 71 is ours, our present stuff.
Yes.
Well, some of the food trucks in the Apple Festival and the Apple Blossom Festival dump grease on our streets. And you can see the evidence of it, down here where a lot of them are located. So this would apply, so Gina Kay would be made knowledgeable of this, and she could either, are we gonna find those people, or is she gonna control it?
That would be up to you all on how we write it.
Well,
Typically,
means that she contracted them, it should be her responsibility.
I go
We
along
didn't
with that.
contract them.
yeah. I guess you can, at this point, like time say it says it's post-festival, you could go see what the remnants were of grease that wasn't done properly, and you can find out who the vendors were in those spots from her, and then we can issue fines for that. I don't know, if you want her to enforce it, then that would probably require her to hire somebody to do that during the festival like this. Or we can have a code enforcement officer do it.
Well, she could charge, she charges for every space, and she can make an additional charge if they leave grease on the street.
Yeah.
So it's really should be her responsibility, I think, rather than the town policing it.
Yeah, during those events. Right, during the Apple Festival. Okay.
What do you want? Are we would we then find her to collect those charges, or you want her to keep those charges? Because if she charges them, then does that go, how do you want to handle that part of it?
Well, in order to remove it, we would have to power wash it, I guess. And so it's gonna cost us,
Right.
and we would, we don't want her to make a profit on it. We would want to get that revenue.
Right. I was just saying, if she puts it in her fees that if you do this, you're going to charge this amount of money.
But she'd have to be responsible for cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Right, I think all the responsibilities should
Or
fall
we-
back on her, whoever's having the event.
But she's gonna charge a fee, and then once they pull out and leave, if the grease is there, they don't have to pay anything. Unless she, can go back and charge it to them.
So,
So,
we could retroactively charge them, but who's gonna go to their house and make them pay.
Well, I'd say-
Nobody's going to, you know.
Leave it to her to police it, and then if she does it, then we charge her for it. That would get her on the,
Right.
or whoever sets up any festival.
I don't think she should be collecting fees to clean it. If it's left and she goes and she doesn't clean it up after that, then if we clean it, we find the, whatever the event is, the event's fine for
Yeah.
whatever cleanup cost we have to ensue. And, oh gosh, it just went in and went right back out. The biggest problem with them dumping grease illegally is it gets into our stormwater runoff areas. And they're posted with things on where they used to be, like no dumping allowed.
For carpet cleaner people, a lot of times they would run their hose into one of our storm drains if they're cleaning the carpet, and that's illegal.
Yeah.
You know, to do that sort of thing, but, I think that idea about finding the event, we could get somewhere with that there.
Yeah.
Let's puts all
It puts a responsibility to keep it in check during the event.
we don't have to go to every single vendor and check by every, that would be tough for Aaron to do all the time.
Put it on the application.
Yeah.
Well, there's a cleanup sheet for the
Yeah.
application. Put that on there too,
Yeah.
and then that would be the charge.
Mhm.
If not,
That you're responsible for the cleanup.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that they're told that they cannot dump that grease. I mean, you know, I'm.
And it
they're
may
told.
be, I haven't gone by the spaces that the mayor has or seen those, it may be that they didn't necessarily dump it, they just didn't have, you know,
Proper
correct
stuff.
bagging underneath it, you know, and they spilled some stuff and they didn't get around it, you know, I mean, it is pretty busy. So, but I'm not saying, you know, obviously people can just dump it if they want to, you know, they're not supposed to, but they can.
It's not that as much as it's on the surface of our streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How would you like to look at food trucks along the streets?
Where are you? Yeah.
I just not really. Locations. So page 38.
What does this say about that?
The first one says you can operate in any commercial or business industrial space as long as you get written permission from the property owner and submit that to the town. You can operate any publicly maintained park, but like if they wanted to park in the space down in Matheson, they can park there because it's open to the public there. So if they wanted to sell lemonade or ice cream or hot dog and hamburgers on a Saturday after they could. You can't, you know, set up a food truck on a residentially zoned lot.
You can't?
Operation of little food vendors are individually resident on individual residentially zoned lots, whether developed with dwellings or not, shall be prohibited. That's
So
specific.
what's the food truck thing that they're doing out there? Is that not is it zone, how's that zone?
Well, this
They're
is for
setting that up.
another community. So
Right,
where are you talking about?
where they're
Trading
having that
post.
food truck Fridays out of the trading post.
Probably on
What's
basic
What's
finance,
that land?
16 north.
It's business.
It's
It's
zone
not
business?
residential.
Okay.
I didn't think.
Well, I didn't know because a lot of that up through there is, but it's both or it's mixed use.
Right.
They get pretty busy up there.
It is.
I think it switches past the trading post to residential.
Okay.
On here, the mobile food vendors shall not be located within 100 feet of the main entrance of any restaurant. Now, this is just daily, so this doesn't have to do with any type of festivals. I think when you have a festival, you're closing down streets and having a multitude of vendors. So this would just be on a regular, today's Tuesday, just a random Tuesday. Any outdoor dining space or any fixed location of competing nature, nor shall mobile food vendors block or park in front of any other open business unless said business owns the mobile food truck or permission is given by the owner of said business. This requirement shall not apply during festivals or other events when a mobile food vendor is operating on a street that is closed in connection with such festival or other event. So you can't take your food truck and block off somebody's restaurant with your food truck to try to steal business. It's basically what that is trying to prohibit. You gotta set up down the street a little bit. That's where I mean, it's okay if you compete, but you can't be unethical about it. That's what that's for.
That makes sense.
So if I'm, according to this, if I have a food truck, I could park it in my driveway, like, and serve out of it. Is that right?
No.
Just residential.
Right, yeah. You have to park somewhere in town.
Right.
Yeah.
Not that I want to, I'm just saying.
And then there's stuff in here where you can't be 5 feet from anybody else's driveway or business, so you're not blocking traffic. You can't be close to any utilities or block any handicap ramps. You can't be near. You can't block any fire hydrants. You gotta be at least 15 feet away.
One more question on the food vendors in residential. I know people have birthday parties and things like that. They do have.
We could add something in there like that. If you wanted to
Except for-
that be allowed, except
Right.
for birthday parties.
So, well, I mean, like, when we did a shower, when we did Stewart's shower, we were on residential property. It was at a barn behind the house in the center of town. And smoke pit set up, or we had tables in it, but their van was parked there because it blocked some ugliness. But we also had a mobile, beverage vendor that was set up in there. So the way that's written, those couldn't be there, right?
Was it in this town?
Yeah.
I was at the.
Behind the house.
Yeah.
But were they selling to the public? Or
No,
was it just
no,
a-
it was
it was
just
just
a
a
big
birthday?
one.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
I think that would be,
As long as you're not in it or at sale.
yeah.
I mean, if
Well,
that person has,
So,
And you
usually
booked
for
that food
that,
truck
the
to
person
provide
who's having the party
specific
has
events
paid
to be
that
on the
vendor to be there.
They could
It's not
just
like
go
he's
and
charging
set it in
people.
front of your
You know what I'm
house
saying?
or sell
Because
hamburgers.
there's a lot that come to schools and do things, but it's already been paid for.
Yeah.
You see
I
what I'm
think that would be, I
Yeah.
think that's where you get your difference.
So can we skip down to standards number one? So who's gonna do this, these permits? If we're gonna start making them have a town permit, who's gonna do them? Do they have to do it every time they show up? Or is it something that they can come in,
I
apply,
think you-
get a permit for the town, and then they're okay for a year, and then next year they have to renew it?
That would be okay for a year.
So we need to change the word Bessemer City.
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
He's just using this as an example.
Yeah, I just put this in there, 'cause this is
Understood.
the only food truck, one I had. So yeah, we would change everything in here and any other verbiage in here that you wanted to change. Yeah, we would issue just a town permit and we could establish a fee that goes in our fee schedule. Like $20, $50, whatever we want to charge for that. And yeah, you're good for a year. You can come set up, whenever you're in designated areas where you can. And as long as you abide by this, then, you're good, just come set up whenever.
Did that also include anybody coming to the festival?
No, that'd be separate.
That's
That's
But
separate.
that's a
Yeah,
separate
separate
entity,
That's
that's,
separate
that's
event.
city.
Yeah, like if we had our own, we did our own festival one day, that would also be separate.
Gotcha.
This would just be for,
Regular business days.
business use, yeah.
What about the food trucks on 16 North, there by Kevin's Produce?
They're in the 10 minutes, so I
Yeah.
have to do that.
Yeah, they would have to, they'd have to get a permit from us and then, just submit Gets better.
So somebody's-
Ken's point, who's gonna tell them that?
Yeah, and somebody's gonna have to be the point person that's on top of that and has which would be helpful to us when we're planning, or to me, when I'm planning hometown Christmas and hometown Halloween and stuff like that. If we have a book that these vendors, these food truck vendors have already submitted and have a license, that way you know that they are, that they're up to code, that they've been inspected, that all those things are done, and then you just look at that list and all those are the ones that are permitted. And then all you have to do, if you're from somewhere else and you want on that list, you come in, you fill out the application, pay the fee, and you're on the list.
Yeah, but for your events, that's covered, that's special events.
Right, but I'm saying, it still gives me a list of good vendors that I certified vendors, approved vendors,
Right,
yeah.
but you don't have to look them up and figure it out.
Oh, they'll be the county health department. Yeah, they'd have to provide the town with their certificate or paperwork from the county health department saying that they've been
Then they come here after they get the inspection, you get
So is somebody already doing that in that food truck trail up there?
I don't think so.
They're just, and I think they're pulling in on a first come, first served basis, whoever pulls in goes wherever, and then they're just filling in, because I asked one of the vendors last Friday. First time I ever been, and the only reason I was there is because I was getting ready for the festival tables.
Well, I don't think the intent of us having a mobile food vendor ordinance is to prevent occurrences like that. The fact that they have, the fact that they have food truck Fridays out there, it's great, and it's something that I think should spread to other places of the town. Just we do it in a regulatory manner where we know at least the food truck vendors that are out here have been inspected and they're selling safe
We're not gonna die.
food
Right.
to the community.
Well, and it protects us too, you don't want that coming back, well, it was in your town limits and you have a food truck out here that
Right.
somebody else, I mean,
Well, and it's honestly, to be fair to the restaurants,
true, they have to have that.
they have to have all their inspections up to date
Right.
to compete with the restaurant.
And be ready,
Yeah.
I mean, they're, yeah.
But I think the food truck's a good thing. Food truck Fridays is a great thing. I think I'm glad to see it growing up there.
I just wish it was right around the courthouse, or right out here in this park,
Yeah.
or, you know, somewhere in the center of town that was drawing more traffic to town.
But it's a great location. I mean, as far as
Oh, yeah. Well, they're doing-
how they got it set up. But I agree, I mean, it'd be good to do a little town.
We have to be careful not to stifle business.
Yeah.
If they've got a good thing going like that, we don't want to be seen as people that are trying to kill it.
What, at the food truck Fridays?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is,
We want to try to.
yeah, that's not the intent of this, to kill that. We want that to keep going, so I think there could be some leniency for that, maybe the compliance with this if we establish this.
It's not a money maker for the town, it's just a, so in that, I would say keep the fee low.
Yeah, I would. We want people to, we want more food trucks.
Yeah.
I love food trucks.
Yeah. Gives you variety.
Exactly. I like to try them out.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say the lobster roll boy is my favorite. It's a little expensive, but I pay it every time.
Well, there was now it was different than that other Mexican one that comes out in front of Rustic Roast.
Evercraft, Fusion, Barbecue.
No, this was a totally different one. But oh my goodness.
And as far as the people having food trucks come in and set up in front along those spots up there, I don't have a problem with it. It draws, especially if he brings the Duck Donut truck up there and parks it in front of his place, people come from all 4 surrounding counties. They follow that duck truck online and go where it is. The Evercraft Fusion truck out of
Could we put
Statesville.
them in, could we put them in the free parking across the street? No.
I mean, I'll tell you what the problem with over the past 6 years, trying to get them to do that, where we fixed it and did it. Number one, the homeless use picnic tables, nobody wants to go over there, they're always nasty and gross. If it was more set up and fixed, like in a fixed location, like we tried to do to start with like a cover over them, in that little alcove between the gas station and that building that's supposedly office space in that little square right there, which is hard for parking and anything. Like if we had it covered, hooked to the ground, because that was the problem, they couldn't do it because it wasn't gonna be hooked to the ground. So if we had a covered thing and the picnic tables were under there and they were maintained, that would help over there. And if the food trucks could line up across the front, like if there was only, say you could only take 2 because we were gonna put them across those front spaces so they were road facing, and people, they don't wanna park over there sideways
So nobody can see.
so nobody can see them. People drive by without seeing them.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Oh, because they're parked.
And they're parked this way, right?
Yeah.
So we need to restrict those parking spots.
Where the-
Yeah, or either just you only allow like 2 right there,
Just
and
right
them
in
at the
front.
front 2, use those front 2.
That was where.
Somebody would have to back in and unhook, and then the next person would have to come in and unhook, and leave the handicapped right there, and then, you know, and just say that it's only gonna be 2. Unless you pull into one of those other spots that's sitting sideways like that.
What are you talking about, like a cover, like a shelter?
Yeah, we talked to Gina Kay about putting up like a set, or I talked to Gina Kay about putting up one of those like covers that she has.
Like a
Yeah,
carport?
like a little carport thing.
The picnic tables are they over there?
Yeah,
They're that
and
there?
some people
Or
keep
they're
moving
back behind
them.
back
People
behind
keep
them?
moving them.
Homes,
Yeah.
drop off of them.
Yeah.
They were out there in that little corner that I was talking about, but somehow, I guess the homeless people just picked them up and carried them around to the side of the building, and then now they
Well, I think, and then,
Keisha and them say that there's drug deals that take place there because they've hid the tables, but they can sit in there when they're standing there working, they can see people come up and leave stuff, and then people come up and pick up stuff. And she said, I would never let my kids eat off those tables. I've seen 2 people snort coke right off the table. So,
All right. Well, we'll keep working.
okay, but, okay, so back to that. Initially, when JD Sink was still at the high school, at least 4 years ago, I talked to him about that space and fixing, that was right before we put the stripe the parking and added picnic tables and stuff. And he was gonna get his class the next whatever to work on a plan. Like, I think so if we talk to Fred, who was a girl, and I don't know her first real name. Anyway, I always called her Fred when she was in high school, but she took his place. So I think if we went back and talked to her again, that maybe in the fall or whatever, like my pitch to him was, let your kids come get a drawing of this parking lot and then plan like what it could look like. If, you know, where would you set the food trucks? Where could you add some planters? Where could we put picnic tables and a shit, you know, I mean, obviously there's a certain place that's better for some of those things, but let them draw it out so they have ownership and, be a part of designing the space where typically what we want is for them to come and hang out there and utilize the food trucks and the space. So, I mean, I think we could go back to her and,
What's last name?
FFA and whatever, ag
And they're always looking for stuff. They want, yeah, they want projects, so they have to come up with that if somebody don't give them something.
Yeah.
Cause they have to do so many.
And they have access to plants and trees and other stuff that,
That'd be a good idea. Drive through all the window.
You can't have a drive-through window in your,
food
That's
trucks.
crazy, man. That's a good idea.
you can sit gravel stick, they say that.
It'll slide out. Yeah. I never thought of that before.
He's in
You
now.
know
He's in
something,
now.
man.
He's gonna
I'm going outside to see that, and
turn your gravel truck into.
yeah. Just raise the bed up.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Hell yeah.
Any more comments on food trucks before I make any adjustments? Like I said, all that's pretty typical regulatory stuff. Like, you got times you could operate, you can't be blasting music from the food truck, you can't, your generator's gotta be muffled, that kind of stuff. Can't have an excess amount of signage on the food truck, other than just typical.
Oh, can I just make a update thing? So the generator thing, you made that comment. Well, the county has decided to flip the way they want the park used at the streets on either side of the park, because I talked to the guy at the concert about it. Because they've moved all the food trucks to in between the service center and the park and left the other side open for other parking or different things. But they've done a much better job at blocking things off before events and not having a problem with the courthouse and the people that work in the courthouse. So, like, I don't know. I guess he got tired of like people fussing at him because it was a constant battle. So anyway, they're doing better, and they've also added additional, like this whole panel of outlets for the food trucks and stuff to plug into, so they wouldn't have to run on the other side, so they wouldn't have to run generators. They could just plug in.
That's good.
So, it looks good. They made good up there.
Yes.
So I guess at Christmas we'll just flip our foods and our horses.
That'll be good. That'll be all right. All right, let's move on to parking.
Do you know how many additional parking spaces we're gonna get on First Avenue Drive, or First Avenue Southwest?
These have
Yeah, in front of these guys.
4. And then I did talk to Josh one day about, he said they could stripe some more going down Main Avenue Drive here. Like, you know, it kind of stops right there when you get to the park. There's just 2 right there in front of that vacant office building, and there's not any more down the right. So he said they could stripe some new ones along each side.
Parallel
going through there, parallel parking out back to the spots. So I need to reach back out to them about that.
I think that was left out originally because of the site pulling out when Second Street was actually open as a street. You couldn't have a blockable line of sight for traffic coming. That's why it was back where it was. So now they've closed it off, and it might still cause an issue because that's the outlet part of
Yeah.
that area.
Back off one.
Yeah,
Side.
something.
Well, the curbing and guttering and around there is looking really good. And they were pouring concrete. They're probably about halfway. People are very excited. It's looking good. It don't look good right now. It's, it's ugly because there's a dump truck. All that stuff. But people are excited that it's going in, and it's gonna. A lot of people walk that way, and that sidewalk constantly stayed covered in about 1 inch of mud. I don't know where it came from, but the mud came.
Across the street, I guess.
Came from your house, down the street.
That's
And that exhausts all the money that we had. Or is there gonna be money for, Billy Millsap's development?
We're still waiting to hear. They've yet to submit a pay request. They're sitting on $1.2 million worth of bills
Yeah.
that they're not ever asked lump sum payout at the end.
When does it have to be expended?
June 30th.
So they gonna wait to the very end.
That actually changed.
Yeah.
Legislature just changed it. We got a, email.
They extend to June 30th.
Yeah. We're not gonna tell contractors
No,
that. They extended it till 2027, June 30th, 2027 now.
Wow,
give us another year?
wow.
Because we weren't the only ones.
No, they was.
Well, yeah.
They were
They
back
had
to-
like 90-some, almost $90 million that we touched.
I think it's green.
Over Randolph and Wake.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they ain't gonna let
Do you have any
them
estimate of
back
how much it's
in.
gonna cost to pay?
Not them, maybe us, but
I've done I'm not exactly, it depends on if they have to grind it or if it's just a straight pour. But that's where we're looking at, what's left.
Could be.
Hopefully there'll be some way to finish it off. We've asked for a month now for a pay request, just so we know where we're standing with things. I'm in no hurry to get paid, so.
is there any way that we could get that root fixed? I don't know what the name of the road is.
First, right there in front of you.
Yeah, straight out in front of me, but halfway up at emergency management. Please get that ground down. Somebody went through there the other day and their whole car jumped up off the ground when they hit it.
We've got this was gonna have, we already had somebody look at it, but we're going to cut the asphalt and actually go in and either pull the root out or cut the root and
The trees are cut down.
just the trees cut down. Yeah. If we try to pull it, we're afraid of where the rest of it is. So we'll have to watch, cut, of course, Jack reached out last week about hopefully maybe some additional funding from the state, so we put a request in, that was going back to the original plan, 24, we're taking meetings out and putting parallel or diagonal parking down through there and on Main Street, we'll do that request for parking at the end. Maybe we'll get that this time.
Have we heard any more about Main Street?
It's time for them to reach out, we're 8 weeks off from the DOT's express.
We have a. There is a meeting for that. It's next week. 26th.
Is that roundabouts and parking included, all that? Or just the repaving?
No, this was traffic counts,
Okay.
it was more geared towards the wrong side.
Okay.
We're hoping everything gets coordinated together and stay communicates with each other so that the don't will be paid before. The water lines and any other signs they know secretly. But they don't turn up here very well. It's just like all the DOT thing about doing is not we pay until the contractor shows up to pay. So that's communication that way.
They wasted millions of more on, West Wilson, where they did that probably $10 million 6-foot sidewalk all the way from 21 into town, and then decided to widen the road, and they drove right over it a month later and tore it all up.
Nick, on page 47, you're gonna update those businesses. because they don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to put this in here, and I haven't read every single word in his ordinance yet, but there's been some, just people say that we have a parking problem in downtown, and parking tends to be an issue, so I wanted us to look at what we have on ordinance so far, as parking, and, if there's anything that we want to add in there, like, the first thing, it took me a while to find it, but, no vehicle shall be parked or left standing on any sidewalk. That's on page 43, it's number 8, it's the first one. But,
Let's enforce that one.
I will say that our police department has been writing parking tickets since the last work session, and several people have actually come here and paid their parking tickets, so.
We're in the
Told you
boat.
that was revenue.
That's a great revenue stream. Just keep doing it. He does it every week.
There's another revenue stream on West Main. Speeders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything as far as parking that you all have seen or wanted us to explore as being able to enforce it or change? See if we could, besides creating a large amount more parking.
That's parking
That's really
there all day long.
It's just really, yeah.
And that's something that's brought up at the radio station.
Oh, yeah. Is there a way to, were there ever signs on Main Street that said 1 hour parking or 2 hour parking
There
or
was
whatever?
because I remember as a kid. Because I loved them.
I don't know if we've ever had signs that said 2 hour parking.
How expensive is it to put in parking meters? We'd have to have a meter made.
Meter reader. On the little hot cart, little
Pretty
side cart,
expensive.
little thing with the
Now,
wheel.
Huh?
I said pretty expensive nowadays in the digital age. If you want to live in the corridor world.
I don't know. I think they make a fortune in Boone. I get a parking ticket about every other time I'm up there. And I guarantee you I'm not the only one. Cause that little woman is diligent with her job. And I'm very apt to get squirreled and just distracted and not do it.
I don't know if we
Go
necessarily need
back.
parking meters. If we wanted to buy some signs that just said 2 hour
1 hour
parking.
Right.
1 hour, 2 hour parking.
Well, there's a
Put
couple
those
that
two
need
out.
to be regulated. I mean, because it keeps people that want to do business in town from finding a place to park because people are just staying there the whole time.
All day. Every day.
We're trying to get business.
So, I think the only way that we'll ever be able to truly alleviate that problem is we work a deal with the private property owners and get some access to the alley behind and put some parking back there. And say, if you're operating this business, you need to be parked in this location. They're gonna come back and they're gonna say, I don't feel safe back there, which is bullcrap. Because the people that they're talking about don't hang out back there. They walk from the Rock House in that area up there down the street in town and hang out at the gas station. So they really need to find somewhere else to hang out. But that, and it's the same thing with the trash cans. When we sent the letter out, 4 years ago saying, please move all your blue rollouts to the back and let the trash truck pick it up in the back. Well, the little girls that worked at the haircutting place down there, my husband won't let me take the trash back there. It's too unsafe to be back there. I'm like, what are you afraid of? Weeds? Because that's all that's back there.
Kim, I don't agree. There's homeless people sleeping in behind old hammocks. There's a bunch of boxes on the dock, wooden crates, and there's
What's
people.
hammers?
The old hammocks,
The old Highland Myers?
or Hyde-Myers.
Well, then we just make him clean his shit
Then
up
the one
back
next
there
to
where there
it,
ain't nowhere else
the
to
one
hide.
with the,
With the gaming machines.
yeah, but the one next to him, in between Shortcuts and Hammocks,
Mhm.
the one that's owned by Hefner,
Yeah.
that's where the people are hanging out.
Well, I also would this will go to a different discussion. I was on the phone with Gary Herman and talking to him about that space, and, anyway, I'll bring it up later. But those two spaces need to be addressed, because they're just eyesores. So, there needs to be some type of ordinance that says that if you're using a piece of property on Main Street in downtown, it needs to look like it's a business, not a storage lot.
Well, let's flip ahead to the vacant commercial
Another ordinance.
Let's see you.
Vacant commercial property,
Yes.
yeah, right here.
From Warrington and
Oh, this is from Eden.
well, the registration form is, and then there's an actual ordinance that from another town that goes on.
Yeah.
I didn't have the Eden's, I just printed their form off to show as a possibility. And this just goes through requiring property owners downtown to register their property.
So you can form a database of all property owners and know who the stakeholders are,
Yes.
which I think we need.
Does it mention in here like what we're talking, like,
Yeah, it's got maintenance requirements. The exteriors of the building shall be painted and maintained in a way that does not exhibit any evidence of vacancy. The yards of the property shall be maintained in a way that does not provide evidence of vacancy. The decks and porches located on the property shall be maintained in a way that does not provide evidence of vacancy. You can't let it dilapidate, and deteriorate, where you get rotting wood and the paint's chilling off, the windows are broken and not replaced, and this happens.
So this would require the corporation that owns the hotel to put windows in the third floor.
No, it says street level.
Yes.
Oh, it's all street level
Street
stuff.
level.
but that would take care of those other two buildings then?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would also put teeth into fixing and cleaning up the back. But I don't think we want to alienate them. We want them to work with us.
Right.
We want to work together. And it would be really good if we could move the water and sewer to that alley.
Mhm.
So we had access to the back of all the
That's what we're
buildings.
gonna try to do when we replace the water line. I don't know if that's, how feasible that's gonna be. I'm not an engineer, but.
But see, all that's private property. We're gonna have to work a deal with all those property owners to be able to do
Purchase
that.
the right of way.
No, they can give us the right of way if we improve it for them.
Yeah.
We don't have to purchase anything from them.
They could also say no.
Yeah.
Right,
So, that's something that
There's
we're.
two blocks that you gotta get
Right.
right.
also, because two of them's
My block
already
and
there.
the next block.
The only other issue is all the water connections are on the front of the building, so you're going to have to get cooperation of the business owner to replumb their building to connect to the back.
Do it tomorrow.
You go in there.
So,
I mean, I don't think you're gonna get any complaints because he's not gonna make any upgrades to the building. He's not gonna do it.
The whole back of that main street could be a new venue. If they could rent out those places, you could have some sort of walking trail or a park down there.
Absolutely.
It could be a
You gotta put the infrastructure there first.
Right.
You gotta put the bones in the ground first, and then we can. plan our things on top.
That would be beautiful.
One step at a time. We can get. the-
And we double our parking.
Oh, absolutely. Because there's so much space back there that's not being used.
Underutilized.
It's just sitting.
But I didn't realize until I talked to Aaron and I was trying to figure out, you know, how nobody liked the little guy on the end because he was in there doing stuff he shouldn't be doing and kind of living there. But he did kill the entire ditch of stuff that I begged somebody to come and cut down to the ground before the growing season started again. And now it's all grown back up because it wasn't taken away. So he did make it look much better out there, and you actually could park right there. But they don't need to be in control of what's going on back there. But he's gone now, so we don't have to worry about him. But
Well,
I noticed, my point is that Bobby Campbell actually owns that. We have right away through Bobby Campbell's property. The ditch is on the mill property. The ditch is not part of the hotel.
So that's Bobby Campbell property.
Yep.
Similar to Bobby Campbell.
Because the line is on this side of the bridge, or the
That's right.
culvert.
For the GIS.
Yeah.
That's the other.
But could that be like in an ordinance,
deed-
too, where they have to keep that cleaned up?
Right.
We already have that, where you have to keep your stuff mowed down, cleaned up, or whatever. Cause I heard that.
Surprised I didn't bring me a notice the other day. I went on vacation, come back, it was dry as could be, come back, and rain while I was gone. I know. That's what I noticed, I'm doing. No, no.
We got returned. Our heads are going to Charlotte and sit down and work on something.
I mean, I think all of these ideas that we've been discussing are great ideas, but we gotta have boots on the ground and people like actively working and trying to get these things done. And they're visible, they're things that you can see, that people will see, and will make the community happy about things. I mean, and you're talking about public safety as well when you're cleaning up and fixing that up back there.
What about the new places over here, on that grass? That's all it is.
He's not mowing it because we used to.
Yeah, but we got a thing that says he.
What's in town?
It's loaded.
Oh, if they did, it was,
2 weeks of you, but I mean,
it's still, yeah. I know.
I was starting to figure that out.
It's pretty tall.
Yes, sir.
What is our ordinances on riding bicycles on sidewalks?
Not kidding.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But it also says the municipality can override the state. But if the municipality does not have a law or an ordinance, then it's illegal to ride your bike on a sidewalk.
Especially on crack on a motorized bicycle.
Yeah.
Or a e-bike.
Yeah,
E-bike.
that guy. And they think he might be connected to the break-in.
That may be another section of our traffic ordinance, so I will,
Bobby, Barbara, and Tony.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
yeah.
What if Tom walked in and touched Tony in the bed?
On the same time.
No. That was back at whatever holiday, and then on Mother's Day, they tried to break in the front.
I hit you the other day, didn't I, Mayor?
What?
I thought I hit the mayor the other day. He ride his bicycle and I said,
Well, that's why he was on the sidewalk.
Oh, here comes Eric.
What's it?
Hey, Lord.
Full past Jack's house.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My comment was not about you.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. It's on Walmart, I mean, Food Line, people that want to know why there's bikes on the sidewalk. I said, you got a sidewalk. You complain because people walking in your yard, now you got a sidewalk.
Now they're complaining because there's bicycles on it.
On the sidewalk.
yeah, maybe, well, do you want us to enforce bicycles on the sidewalk?
Well,
That would also have to include,
What do we have?
I would have to
It's
check on it.
supposed to be.
See if-
the skateboards.
Let you.
Yeah.
Do we have a skateboard bicycle policy?
Yeah.
I think we
With that law,
skateboards, I have to look
when our
for the
county is
bicycles.
in on that, but it'll be, who knows how long. It'll eventually be about it.
Look like you did.
We just don't know when that's gonna be, but yeah, we got it, it works. That little speck in somebody's eye.
Alright, let's move on to the budget. Unless anybody has any other comments about budget.
Are we going to do all general stuff before we get into the budget, or are we gonna do stuff at the end?
We need general
Comments.
General comments.
General comments and stuff about stuff that's going on, or could be going on, or that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Does it have to do with the budget?
No, it doesn't, that's,
We can do that afterwards.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I was. I don't know, I guess when I switch it over to PDF, I also, when I click through the Excel sheet super fast, sometimes I hit the zoom out button. Minimize. Alright, this is, a budget that instead of an 8-cent tax increase, it's 6.5. So let's, if you notice the fund balance halfway down the first page of your budget, which is page 58 of the agenda, has $742,730 appropriated. We'll talk about why as we move through. I want to go through basically just the general fund, water and sewers, jam bill type, all of the different things we're trying to do is figure out where to fund it in general fund or to fund it at all. So let's get to let's switch to our departments and go to town council first. It's page 67 of the agenda packet, or 13 of the budget. So you guys asked for us to decrease a couple lines. We did. We did decrease your miscellaneous and got rid of the fuel and that's about it. I did have 40,000 in here for contracted services for the attorney, and that's because I was going to put the money to pay for that lawyer to help us with the downtown incentives in that line item. But our new finance director told me I can't do that, so I moved that money to put that in a different department so we could code it correctly. That's going to be an economic development expense, so we were going to code it to the right department. So I took that out, just left it at 20, so that should cover the attorney expenses, just general being here for meetings, the retainer, and a little bit of extracurricular if they need to write anything or research it.
Question.
Yes.
I may get smacked with this, but in the salaries, will we say about increase?
Okay.
Are you?
What was the question?
For the town council.
Yeah, but what was the question?
He asked if y'all could not receive an increase in salaries this year and leave it the same.
Sure we could.
Yeah. we should.
And I don't see why we shouldn't.
If you're gonna ask for more money, I don't think we should take it.
I agree 100%.
It's a small amount, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit, you know.
Any other comments on town council?
What about the insurance workers' comp? I don't understand that, because we don't have no insurance. You mean we get hurt inside this building?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the bonding and, There's some legal, that helps cover legal issues if y'all say or do something.
I mean, I guess.
$100?
I guess if you did.
That's the
call-
premium. I mean, it's cheap, it ain't much premium to
It's not.
They call it a
premium, but it's
premium.
not really.
No.
Deductible and everything else that follows,
Yeah.
we'll cover the rest of it.
I mean, I guess.
So when Eric fell out on his chair,
He twisted his knee all up, he cleaned that all up.
Yeah.
We better leave that.
You never know.
All right, let's move the admin.
Can I ask a question? Will we go back to that? And the life insurance 15-15, and it says 100%, but all these others where they're the same, they all say 0%. Why is that one 100%?
I don't know, I just need to change the calculation in that cell in the spreadsheet. For admin, I didn't really change a whole lot. Basically, everything's kind of the same for all the audits and the accounting and stuff. There is money that I put in training, down towards the bottom, increased it from 7 to 10. We could probably decrease that back to 7. I'd bump that up. Looking at potentially Nicole and Kimberly and I being able to attend different training, but we could knock that back down to 7. So I like that adjustment for that. I would like to keep the travel at 6, just a $2,000 increase because hotels can get sometimes pretty expensive, even if it is the super rate of the holiday and prices can be. And sometimes when staff has to stay overnight, then increases that cost. That's really the only change.
How are we decreasing the website hosting and maintenance?
Because the last year was for her to do the first initial changeover from our old website to the new one. So now it's just her maintaining it. And I email her, or Aaron emails her, or Nicole emails her.
We've been able to increase that because they were supposed to be, was it ADA compliant by April 2026, and they pushed that back to April 2027.
Okay.
And I've heard through the listserv, a lot of people are saying that it is expensive. Transition over.
Alright, the rules.
I knew that was coming. Aaron told me.
We'll bump that up to 3,000.
Is that the website? That basically washes.
Well, you'll have an extra 1,000. Well, 1,500.
Go ahead.
I took 3 out of training. Can't do math too fast.
I failed.
Alright, let's move to police department. Did have to increase the salary line slightly. from 792 to 794 because we're going to account for the holiday pay since they accrue it differently than the rest of the staff, and then sometimes we have such a large payout around this time of the year for staff as far as their unused time. So we wanted to budget for that ahead of time instead of doing a budget amendment later in the year to account for that. I still have the police department's body cameras in here with contracted service for $12,000. Still have the SRO contract price at $32,000. Now heard different from county this time on that. They're going to try to charge us something different.
Why are they charging us? I thought we were taking back over our last one.
No, we still have one for the early college and the SSC because the SSC is legally separate from the high school. And so you can't have the same person at the high school and the SSC. Because it's just too hard.
And the SEC and the early college is split.
They split them. Well, in the high school, it's just such a.
It's not our decision.
I know, I'm just saying, as an educator in that building that was working at the student, it wasn't a student success center then, it was the other place, and people come and looked at that building from all over the country because it was such a successful program, and it only ran from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
And then we build a building and pull it back over here and destroy the whole program. So, that's just my 2 cents. And now we gotta put an SRO out there that, yeah.
Well, the high school, I think, there's so many students there, and there's so many people there. It's we need 2 officers there. They need to be,
Right.
they need to be dedicated just to the high school students.
Exactly.
So the high school can't afford for one of them to be up there at the SSC hanging out, and they need to be down there.
Absolutely.
So the SSC and the early college split one because typically at the early college, you don't have a lot of problems at the early college out there. Let's see here. Moving down, we increased fuel because fuel prices are outrageous and they don't look to be leveling off anytime soon. We don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now, so they could still be just as expensive or even more expensive. We hope and pray that they're cheaper. Property liability went up, workers' comp went up. We need to put some more in our maintenance lines. We're looking at purchasing the police department their Class B uniforms this year, so everybody has one, so they can wear those at court and special events. And then we had to increase the vehicle equipment line to $25,000. That's just how much it costs to equip a vehicle. Unless you can buy one that's already equipped, which is our goal, is to find a vehicle for sale that hasn't been rode extremely hard by another department for several years, but it's already fully equipped.
What falls under the equipment, the $10,000 equipment?
It's radios, I think, flashlights, handcuffs, handcuff keys, anything that's having to do with their uniform or their vehicle that they may use on a daily basis. Anything other that doesn't have to do with their vehicle or specific to the uniform itself that they use on a daily basis.
And that's way less than $1,000 per person for the whole year. So,
That does not include bulletproof vests, even though that is something they wear. Or does that include bulletproof vests? The vest.
That would include bulletproof vests.
That's what I'm And we just, several of those, but he wants to keep that in rotation where we're getting on every year. Yeah.
And And the maintenance and repair for the automobiles, what, is that basically oil changes and?
Water pumps, transmissions, radiators, tires.
So it's evidently been an increase, it's increased it.
The county's also increasing their fee at the garage.
Well, those things have gone up. I mean, if you're taking your car
Oh,
to
yeah.
go get
I was telling you.
Okay, wait a minute, do we have to use the county?
They're actually cheaper than anywhere else.
You sure? Have we checked with other people?
Yeah, very.
By far the best deal. And I don't think we want to get into opening up our own garage.
Well, Aaron, you're pretty good, man.
Just add that to the house.
Yeah, just, you know.
As long as it's windshield wipers.
But no matter-
Just pop a fuse.
I don't know, I like scraping things down. Give me a lift, I'll finish the tires.
Very good.
There you go.
Is there any more questions on police department?
Yes, I do have. I want to look down here at the bottom. It's $1.7 million that we're spending on that. And I want to propose an idea, and that is I have worked at places and I was a working supervisor. And I propose that we do go to one police officer during the day because we have a chief and a detective that can back them up. And we can save some money that way by going to one during the day, keep the two at night. I think that's a way that we can affect the budget as well as the $1.7 million that we're spending on public safety.
Go with one officer during the day, we're gonna give the policeman a raise to try and retain them.
Well, we can't come, I talked to Gordon Knight this weekend. The other counties are proposing such vast salaries. There's no way we can compete with what's going on around us. We can't even come close to that. I don't even think that we need to play that game. We've always staffed our police department. With some exceptions, we've staffed the police department. But if we get into playing the game of what's going on around us, we can't play
No,
it.
I don't, we're not gonna be able to compete with the larger municipalities around us, or the county. We're not gonna be able to do that. But I don't think we should decrease it to one during the day. I realize that we have the chief and the captain here, but our lieutenant is a working supervisor, and he works on the road. I just think that causes an officer safety concern. It's just my opinion. It's obviously open to discussion with everybody here, how we want to move forward. But I think if you got one person out there on the road, our town's not that large, so whoever's here in the office could be somewhere rather quickly. But, I think it puts somebody in, could put them in a very unsafe situation. They're by themselves.
And we've also had people sit down in the lobby for 20 or 30 minutes waiting for an officer to come in, print off a police report for them, because there's nobody in the office to do it, because they're out on the road.
Most business done there today.
Yes. I mean, the police chief is at a meeting for something, or he's out on a call with somebody, and the captain too, so, I mean, it's gonna be hard to go down to one day, but the mayor brought it up, so let's discuss it.
How many are on during the day?
Two.
So it's just two.
2 patrol officers during the day, yeah.
With two other people backing them up. There are two people available inside here.
And well, if you count Jennifer Patrick, there's 3, but also Mike Chastity and Jennifer Patrick are also picking up SRO shifts at high school right now.
Yeah.
So they're not in office all the time.
Yeah.
And you have backup from the county too. There is an agreement with the county sheriff's department and the town police department of mutual assistance. And so that is available to us also.
But I don't think it's a smart idea for us to, if we have the officer, to say, well, we're only gonna have one officer, but we expect the county to cover our butts. To me, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, that takes away from what Mike was trying to say about being self-reliant.
Well, Eric, checking on your statement, I don't think it's right for the police department to be in the county assisting the sheriff.
I agree 100%.
They don't ask for it.
Yeah, they've been in Bethlehem before.
That's been my whole argument for years. Our police department needs to stay in the town of Taylorsville, not Alexander County.
And I think for the most part they do. We've cleaned that up a lot. I think the only time recently that they've been out in the county is if they call for it, or they're investigating something for the school. I will say the SROs have to go out in the county. We're the only high school in the county. So if something happens at the school, they have to go out to hit night.
But the SROs are not two of our police officers in town.
Right.
Well, you know, I
Say
said this.
it would save some money, I get it, but.
Yeah.
But at whose safety? And what if two things happen at the same time, which happens a lot?
You've got coverage from the county sheriff's department
How many
as well
people
as
do
two
they
people
have on
in the city.
shift? How many people do they have on shift during the day? How many zones does the sheriff's office have? They have 8 zones?
They have 8 officers.
How many
How
many patrol deputies are on? I guess they've got every zone covered with one, and then a sergeant and a lieutenant, and then whoever's over there at the sheriff's office administrator.
I don't know. I see way more sheriff's deputies in town, flying through town, speeding through town, than I do our people out in the county.
Unfortunately, they gotta go through town to get to the county.
Well, that's true.
If you're gonna get from one side to the other, you're most likely coming through the town unless you wanna work your way around. Depending on where you're going, at what time.
I'm gonna be hard pressed to vote for this budget without any attempt to try to cut costs. I won't say that. So we're in a perilous situation right now with this budget being passed.
What do you mean perilous? Why is it perilous?
Well, it's perilous because you've got 3 people that's gonna vote against it. You don't have a budget.
But you wanna vote against it because you wanna eliminate sufficient positions within.
If there's no cost saving, I've asked for
We've
cost
been
saving.
cutting
on-
costs, and he cut it from 8 to 6.5.
I don't think safety's where you go.
Alright,
No, because this leads to, well, let's cut one officer, let's cut the whole department. And I'm-
Exactly.
I'm against that 100%.
If you're not.
So we can't go down that rabbit hole, period. And I'll be hard pressed on that issue. Now, we can cut some other things in the budget, I'll be happy, to go through. I mean, if you want
I
to
mean,
give
we
my
can
entire
cut-
salary out, that's fine, I will give them my entire salary for,
And get rid of the town car. Sell it.
That's fine with me. That's fine. I'm,
And I tell you before you sell it, I don't understand that.
Really?
well, I mean, we can go through these line items. I mean, if you want to decrease, maintenance on something, you can take 5,000 out of that. You can, I think fuel should remain at an increase just because we don't know what's going to happen with that. We can't reduce the property liability insurance or the workers' comp because you got to pay that to the league. Maintenance and repair automobile, we can cut that back to 30.
Problem is you're gonna come back for a budget amendment on that stuff, probably.
I mean, I think if you look through these line items, you can see that for operations, that well, they're already thin. Like, they're only increased a small amount to be able to cover just inflation. They're not increased to, have a large amount of expenditures in one item over another. They're just almost the bare minimum each one.
You don't have a lot of cushion in there. I
You
mean,
know?
it's just what you have to do.
All right, let's come back to the police department. Let's move to public safety. Let's talk about the fire department. So right now, I have in here to still give the fire department 6 cents, which will make it $157,200. How does everyone feel about that?
I'm gonna tell you how I feel about it. Every one of us at this table, we pay 8 cents right now, fire tax in the county.
No, I don't.
Yes, sir, yes, we do.
You
Your
know,
65 cent, 8 cent of that is fire tax.
No. Our tax is on top of,
Their fire taxes.
Well, then you
is
need to
separate.
call the county and straighten them out.
We do
And my
not pay.
65 cent, 8 cent of that is fire tax.
no, it's over and beyond. I promise you.
So you say somebody lives in the county has got a higher tax rate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they pay county tax.
Yeah,
My friend sat down and looked at my thing the other day and she said, I cannot believe this does not have a fire tax on it. I mean, she said, we pay
If you
8
live
cent
outside
fire
the
tax.
town limits, whatever fire tax district you in, you have 65 cents to Alexander County, plus whatever the cent allocation is to that fire.
They changed that in the last few years, did it not?
Last year,
Last year. Because, well, I mean, they were lower, I think.
it was 5.5 and.
Yeah. And then the rest of it, they were supplemented to the fire departments out of the general fund budget for the county. And they quit doing that and just put everything on the whole fire tax. So you pay 65 cents plus whatever district you're in. I think Bethlehem maybe 12. There's a list of them.
Vashti is higher.
Vasta is 12.
So it's a smaller.
It's smaller. Yeah, so they're not pulling as much revenue, they don't have as many people, but I think Central here is 8. So that would be 8 on top of the 65, and Vashti would be 12 on top of the 65.
So they had a tax increase, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
fire
there's a
tax.
That's for the fire.
No, it's a tax increase out there, how you look at it, whether you do a fire tax or you do it property tax, it's a tax increase.
Yes, yeah, tax increase.
It's just a way to get around. I mean, I'm just calling it.
It's a tax increase, it's not a,
Not necessarily a property tax.
it's not a property tax
Right.
increase. It was an increase to your fire tax.
Correct.
Which is still a tax increase.
But
It's
they
a
didn't
tax.
decrease, they didn't decrease their property taxes whenever they get fired, so it's still, it's a.
Not that, not that
I
I'm
think it's
aware of.
unfair because depending on what community you live in, they pay a different tax rate.
Right, they
You know,
do. I think
that's
some of that
like
comes from the
77
fact that
cents.
some of those fire departments are much more,
73.
active in raising funds to support their fire departments. Like Kid Night always does a big fundraiser, Ellendale does a big fundraiser. I don't know, but,
Do
so,
they do
they're not,
They do fundraisers.
they do not.
And they also, though, a lot of these other departments are completely volunteer. Whereas Taylorsville has, used to have just one, now they may have 2 now that are paid firefighters because it covers a bigger area.
I think they get paid like per call.
Yeah.
They're not full time, so they don't get
No.
salary.
No, but they're paid compared to volunteer, which your rural areas are all volunteer, correct, yeah.
From the county, they get $378 a year, and then our 119 gives them $497. You know, what is their budget? How much money are they sitting in their savings account?
They have never given us a detailed, accounting of what they have. They have a contract with us.
You know, I want them to have what they need versus what they want.
Well, they want a new fire truck this year. That's
No,
what they
not
want.
this year, and they couldn't do it because it's over $1 million, because it takes 4 to 5 years to get
Just to
the
get a
money.
fire truck. Well,
Right,
it takes time
and
to
to
build
build
it, because it has to be built. You can't just go, let's go get one.
But you gotta pay for it now.
Right.
And it's.
I talked to the fire chief,
Yeah.
they don't have a rate sheet for $307,000 in the bank. You know, they get that money and then they spend it on equipment and, you know.
There's a lot of equipment.
So,
And that equipment has to be updated, just like our equipment for our police department has to be updated. I mean, it's things you can't just,
Their stuff must be.
it has to work. Yes, and
Where we're
it's
pushing policemen to use stuff that probably should be replaced and not replacing them, their stuff is mandated that it must be
It's
replaced.
inspected,
like
it is
this.
inspected. And if it don't pass, it don't,
One,
it's out.
2, what about like 12 cents?
And they have training.
yes.
You know, that's another thing. Your firefighters have to be trained. They have to be updated. It's just a teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Has to have so many hours of training every year. If you're a fireman, you have to be trained. You have to have so many training hours. Whether you're a volunteer or not, it doesn't matter. If you're gonna be on a truck, you gotta be trained and certified in everything you do. So, I mean,
So the bottom line of the
There's a lot of costs
budget
with
thing is
our
that, do
department.
we not need to write an ordinance that states that our fire tax for town citizens is gonna be 6 cents? We need to write an ordinance that says we're gonna do a fire tax of 6 cents. And then what do we need to operate? And we know we can't operate on 35 cents. Because that's because actually we've only been running on 30. So we know we cannot fulfill what we're obligated to fulfill with no fluff, because you've cut all the fluff out of this, right?
Other than capital expenditures.
Right, where we draw out the money for one-time expenditures.
For the most part, yeah. So yeah, for the fire tax, so we would outline that in our budget ordinance, which y'all would adopt. Hopefully next month at the meeting, we would just say 6 cents is going to the fire department as a fire tax. We'll allocate what 6 cents out of our budget would be, which would be $157,200. I mean, they provide a valuable service to the town. And it's just like everything else, it only continues to get more expensive. Do I think at some point in time, there will become an impasse to where services will become so astronomically expensive that A, we won't be able to charge the community enough for those services, and B, we won't be able to recover the expenses of those services with the money that we make. So we will not be able to provide that service. So that service will not be provided unless it's provided through some private entity, which at that point in time will be astronomically expensive to begin with because it's private and it's not regulated. So do you want people to have fire protection in the town? Do you want people to have police protection in the town? Then they have to pay for that. We can't cover that through other expenses, other revenues, because we don't make enough money to do that. We could cut our police department by a third and only have one officer here every day, but as a former law enforcement officer, I'm going to tell you that's not a good idea, because then that puts people in horrible situations by themselves. People get shot all the time responding to domestics, and all they do is pull in the driveway and get out of the car. They don't talk to anybody, and they're just shot and killed. Does that happen every day? No. Do we want that to happen here? Absolutely not. Could that still happen if you have 2 people out there? Absolutely.
But it's less likely.
Yes.
So I guess my question was, now, there a possible way to separate? It's just, we just, hey, we're just gonna make an ordinance where it says 6 cents goes to the fire department, and then the rest goes to.
That's technically what Aaron already did anyway, was we give her 5 cents all the time. So we would just increase it to 6, but we would specifically state within the ordinance, you know,
But
this 6 cents.
showed me on that paper, it shows each community in which, what they do in the fire tax, plus the 65 cents. So people have eyes to see it,
Yeah,
that it's transparent where it's going.
Which is what Nathan's trying to do, spell out in the ordinance, as opposed to this.
so we would list it, you know,
Right.
So it would be listed.
town fire tax, 6 cents, town property tax rate, whatever, you know, like. I mean, the whole rate would be, in this instance, 41.5, and then you'd say, of that, this is for the fire department, the rest is for general operations. Yes, to the rest.
And then it would be paid as it's collected too, and
Yeah.
if it's a fire tax, if we collect 96%, then they get 96%. Then as your prior year goes on and you collect those back taxes, then it would constantly roll. It would just be, you know, we paid 157,200, but we only collected 80% this year for whatever reason. You would roll as it got paid.
So you're saying they have an option not to pay the 6 cents?
No.
If somebody just don't pay it.
Just like,
Oh, somebody
just
just
like
don't
in
pay their
general,
taxes.
they don't pay their taxes.
Okay.
It's just, as we collected it, it would go to the fire department, so there's no guarantee that 157,200 actually goes to the fire department next year, because it may not get collected.
And the other way we were doing it, they got 5% of what,
They got, whatever was
Automatically.
allocated was.
Yeah.
you know,
It wasn't when we collected it, but the county's is just when they collect it too, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it says they collected.
and some places in Alexander County are paying 12-cent fire tax on top of their county taxes.
Yeah. So you've got 77% tax rate, technically, it's just not advertised.
Alright. Let's move on to Parks and Rec, and we'll come back to the fire. Alright, first thing in Parks and Rec, at 52 grand for NOI, for contracted services, for master park plan, that's appropriated out of fund balance. I have it in a line item, because it's, what's a contracted service project that we would do through, engineering company. We can cut that and use the COG to do it. They quoted us about half the price. The reason why I kept the higher price in there with an engineering firm is because I've used that engineering firm before. I've seen them build a park before. It's like, it's nearly the best. So if we're gonna seriously consider building a sports complex as a tourism draw to the region, for our community that benefits the region, and probably a larger landscape at some point in time, I don't see why we wouldn't just start with the best. But we can decrease that line item and then move up to them at some point in time in the future. So that is a cut we can make there for.
So you're saying, you think no matter what we do, in the parks plan, if we go with the COG and do it that way, that when we get ready to actually do it, we're going to go back and spend the 52 anyway to get the better plan?
I don't know necessarily the better plan. I mean, we'll have an overall master park plan within, as far as actually designing and engineering the sports complex. We would have to go with an engineer for that one time. God could do that for us.
You said the COG could not do that for us.
The sports
I don't think so.
complex,
Right.
not the park, but the
Contract.
sports complex.
Yeah, this one.
Yes.
So they can do the, master park for us.
So would that not end up cost us an extra $20,000 in the long run, where if we just?
I think
went
at
ahead
that
and
point in
did-
time, we'll be taking out, we'll be looking at grants and loans and bonds, anything under the sun to be able to fund that type of projects. That's gonna be millions upon millions of dollars. So that would just be written into the cost of support.
Okay. So then maybe we should pull back and just use the COG to do the original plan.
Okay.
How's everybody else feel?
So that 52 would be reduced to what?
23,000. To the $19,000 cost savings.
Will that
That
affect
doesn't
the
affect
capital
our-
outlay?
Huh?
Will that affect the capital outlay that you
No,
got there for 100,000?
no, that's for the, bathroom facility for Madison Park at the high school is gonna have this big.
At the high school?
The high school's gonna help build.
Oh,
We got to grade off an area, buy all the materials, plumb it, have a wire for electric, get some, little bit of sidewalk out there. It's gonna end up being.
It's probably an overestimate of expenses as far as the supplies and stuff goes, right? And then the labor and stuff is not gonna be
As
as expensive when you use the high school.
The labor's not, I think the materials are questionable.
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
Thanks for paying.
For plumbing, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what we decide to go with as far as how the toilets are gonna flush and that kind of thing. If you're gonna
I
do.
mean, we're gonna do most of the initial work ourselves, setting the taps and the stuff up to the building and everything, but.
Yeah, the grading and the pad, that's gonna be pretty expensive.
Okay.
And then honestly, well, like you said, the auto flushing toilets and everything, when I spoke with Tony Lackey about potentially just doing that down there at our bathroom facility, it was gonna be $25,000 just to convert our facility to the auto flushing toilets and urinals. Those toilets are just more expensive than in the valves and plumbing.
But in an area like that, you need that,
Yes.
because that has caused problems in the
Absolutely.
past. So it's better just to go
It
ahead
won't
back to
eliminate
normal.
the problem, but it'll help.
It will help, yes.
And we would do a whole new tap right there at the road, so where currently meters at the top corner of the park and was running down to the facility and do a shorter run, so you'll reduce some costs there. Also, the pad and the initial plumbing in the pad is my concern is what the expense is gonna be, and the grading. Because the plan was to come with a sidewalk and parking area down to it, so it's ADA compliant, and then join it to Shelter 6, and potentially doing away with that bathroom facility altogether in Shelter 6, and just making that one larger pavilion for rentals, with it being, the bathroom being that close to that one. They can utilize that, you don't have people coming up while you're having a party, trying to use the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, that would be great, because that's happened.
And one facility is a lot easier to maintain than two facilities. The other bathroom there's no heat or nothing to the plumbing there, so we have to winterize it every year. We've run into some nasty situations in the past.
Do we have enough people that we could designate someone as a parks person? That they were on site, like instead of them just being general, doing stuff all over town, this person's focus was only to be at the parks, and that would be all our parks. So it would be Matheson Park and it would be here, but maybe they would be housed in, maybe that bathroom's not a bathroom anymore, maybe that bathroom's an office, and they would be there and they could, like if people wanted, like we could have some balls and things that people could use, like a volleyball for the volleyball net and this and that. And they could also be responsible for maintenance and cleaning and making sure that everything, the grass is mowed and the stuff is clean and all that, and everything's in working condition, that would also control people that were just not supposed to be there and just have like wander, and run them off and say, you're gonna have to move on, you've been here long enough, and then they could also be work this, keeping maintenance at Town Park. We don't have enough people to do designate just somebody as a park person.
Scotty is our part-time person, and he goes down there and cleans the bathrooms and changes out the trash every morning. He's also the same guy that does all the brush or the bulk pickup through town. The rest of the guys work on the water and sewer, and they're fixing pump stations and setting water and sewer taps all day and maintaining all that. The part-time people that we have do go to the park. They also go to the cemetery, which takes 3 days, and go to the rest of the park in town.
Well, if we did some type of internship with somebody, one of the person, it would be back in the ag department, right, that does like golf courses and, like, they have classes, like that kind of stuff. We get, don't they have kids that go out and do things? Or like, couldn't we do like some type of internship with
Like a
kid?
A non-paid internship or? a paid
Yeah.
internship?
Well, most internships are being paid, yeah.
Yeah.
You can get a paid
Don't do
internship.
Of somebody that would, a student that was needing those kind of experiences or something, or maybe work with Appalachian or CBCC that has that type of thing, and see if they've got somebody that needs something.
I think it's recreation management, but you do have golf course management, but I think it's recreation management, you also have.
You're also gonna have to upfit that octagon building from a bathroom to an office. It's gonna increase our capital outlay. Which will, I think that's something we work towards next year, having somebody do that. We can work towards setting up an actual program.
Well, I mean, we've just been in some other small towns where they had smaller parks like that one, where there was somebody in an office that had, had information about, where you could pick up information about the whole county and places and things to go and do, but they also had the balls and the whatever else for the things that they had in the park that you could pick up, and you just sign them out and you go use them and you bring them back. And you wouldn't need to do that in the winter, but like if we had somebody that was doing like a May to maybe September internship.
I think that would be good. That'd be a good idea, but we just don't have the people to do that now.
It would be a better idea if the park was renovated too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a big issue, just the whole park in general being renovated.
So the bathrooms you're saying are gonna be a completely different location than the Octagon building?
It's gonna be up there near the parking next to the biggest shelter.
Okay.
There was a little bathroom in
Like
there.
where you park coming
Yeah.
into
And we would just discontinue operation of Little Bath.
Right.
To that facility. And we put like a little sidewalk that you could walk from that shelter to that area.
And we did discuss taking their gut and the octagon building, and our idea was to put a roll-up door where the gap is between the two doors, so that you could utilize it for mowing storage and
Yeah.
things like that, things for the
Yeah.
park.
Now, would this be a separate than the master park plan? Okay.
And our hope is we don't spend $100,000. But
But you need to put it in there just in case, so we're not having to make it.
And then we got, and then if we got $20,000 left, we can look at doing something down there with that.
We could plant some trees or add another toy. It's very small one because they're very expensive.
Yeah.
What's,
So the change there was 20-some thousand, right? It was changing from 52 to 23.
yeah,
So the 152 is fund balance.
120.
Or 23 now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really affect the overall budget truly. right? Because it's a one-time expenditure.
Well, it does,
It's coming
it's in the
from-
budget, so it decreased our expenses by $29,000.
Okay.
Tourism, we don't have anything in our salaries, that was where I was gonna put a Main Street person, but I would probably move that to planning and development, to do that, but I don't have any money in that line. I took the 500 out of gift to Celtic Christmas, because we haven't donated to that in a while, and I put that, and also took 1,000 from Town Council Civic Events by request, and just added those to Hometown Christmas, because we only give 1,000 of that, but we were giving more money to other stuff, so I figured that's our own event. The only one on here is listed. So just have that there, and then the Midnight Center asked for an extra $1,000 this year, so I have that in there. You can, when we discuss this, we'll probably discuss that as well. I changed.
Can I make a point there? Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
But the Midnight Center is the Welcome Center for Alexander County, so if it's listed and you go to look for the Welcome Center, that is.
That's it.
So we really need to have a marketing brochure for the town of Taylorsville made that's down there, so that when people come into the Welcome Center, they can have that.
I changed the line item at the bottom from Main Street / downtown development, and just changed it to our Taylorsville Development Alliance as a contribution, so we would give them that contribution, and then they could do Main Street downtown development on our behalf. I made that $10,000, which was an extra $50. Than the $950 we did last year. In the contracted services, we wanted to do a marketing and branding project, and then you can see the attorney line where I moved it from council's budget to tourism for the downtown incentives, but I might actually need to change that over to planning and development after today. So that may come out of tourism to go to planning and development, but it's for the same reason. So, and then I have an economic development line item that will not be in tourism or will be in planning and development, but it doesn't have anything in it. I just want to start showing it on the budget, so as we can figure out ways to put money towards economic development, we can have a line item that goes in. Then you have your capital outlay for land purchase for an economic development project. So we need to talk about all of that. Celtic Christmas, Taylorsville Development Alliance, and capital outlay.
Where's capital outlay listed?
At the bottom of tourism.
Oh, I see.
Like way down, yeah, at the very bottom.
So is this capital outlay $250,000? Is that for that? Where's the property that you're looking at? Is it the Saunders place? And what's the asking price on the property?
$230 right now, but we're gonna have to demo that building, so that's why I put a little bit extra in there. I don't know if that's the cost.
How much?
What, 2 months?
How long's the property been listed?
Over a year, they had it under contract for a while, and that fell out. So then,
Had it under contract, do you know who? You don't know why it fell out?
yeah, I do, because they went through some type of legal battle with each other.
With each other?
Yeah.
Is it still
They went under, I guess, they had an option to purchase it, and they wouldn't ever go under contract or put the deposit down, and then whoever the potential seller was filed a lien against the property at the Alexander County Register of Deeds office. And then they had to go through a legal battle with that to get that lien off of that. apparently you can just put a lien on his property. Yeah, I'll check
For
it.
no reason.
Yeah.
Wow.
We ought to
So-
start doing that ourselves.
That's what it is.
So what are the thought processes of like how much land is there?
It's a little under 5 acres, so we would purchase that and then work through, different grants to be able to build a building there. Or you can reallocate that money and we could try to purchase a property downtown. I am working with the COG to apply for a grant in the fall to get some money to purchase a building downtown, and then we take that money and revitalize it and get it ready to
How
be
close to
a
the town
restaurant
limit line is
space.
that
It
property?
creates revenue.
It's in the town limits.
Yeah, but how far beyond it does the town limit run?
Louis Road.
That's a little.
Okay, so it's very close.
Yeah.
So if it was a very, let's say the building looks something like that, the Gerber's, the metal building place down there with the rock and the metal and whatever, and it was, but it had, you're looking at something with storefronts, right? But it could also have the welcome to Taylorsville, like a really nice entrance coming into town out in front of it.
It would be more like an industrial building, because it's along the railroad and that whole industrial corridor. And you can put a nice sign there on the property that says welcome to Taylorsville. But it would be more of a.
Well, we need to cross the railroad tracks to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you have to?
Yeah. Yeah.
You would you own that? You would own that property. It would be without
Good at.
on the other side of the railroad tracks, between those 9 railroad tracks, that's not part of it.
I think it is.
It's on there right away.
Yeah.
It's on the railroad track.
Yeah, it's on the road. There's already water and sewer and natural gas down there. So.
Would the property pass EPA inspections?
I don't know, it's what it's a flood. You have to get phase 1 done.
Those are terrible.
I don't know, it's rumored that they were dumping.
They were illegal
dumping. Yeah, but I can't find anything on the EPA's website about they did an official cleanup out here.
No, we asked them to come in and look at it. That property, the hospital property, and what it was. there-
Well, that was for a grant.
That was different.
That was for a grant, that wasn't just for one instance where they had to come in and clean up. Like, if
You
you look at,
got called in, code enforcement called in about the junk cars and all the stuff piled up, and they started pushing everything.
Into the woods.
And then, I think the fiberglass is the one that actually called them, because it was oil running
In
off the
there.
property into their ditch.
Yeah.
did they come, did they clean it up, the EPA?
They said they cleaned it up, but the stuff got gone, rain washed it on down the road. I think that about it. Yeah.
Alright, well, we'll, scratch that then. Mark that out. Maybe we could repurpose it for a different property.
I'll get around to the ramp. Thumbs up.
Could get a ground.
That's who we called, was about Granfield. They said there wasn't enough here to clean up to get the grant between the hospital and that property.
Yeah, they said there wasn't that many dollars
Yeah.
there. And that's when they recommended using COG and getting a regional-wide project together. And there would be more money regionally, to do everything. We go up to $1 million or something, so. it was
And the whole idea behind doing this building and this property is just to have income
Mm-hmm.
to generate
Create.
rental.
Wait.
A revenue stream.
Well, that would be for the nonprofit.
Oh, for the nonprofit, okay.
That's also part of the tax base, bringing
Yeah.
dollars.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, increases tax base, increases, I mean, I can talk to the property owner and see if we can negotiate the price a little bit. We would obviously have to, go under option on the property first, and then, barring that no environmental concerns came back doing any studies, then we're gonna purchase the property. We wouldn't purchase the property. We wouldn't purchase it without doing any type of studies on it first.
Right.
Because then we could get handed a bad egg, and got stuck with it, and not have anything to
You
do
know,
with it.
vacant property, you can't do nothing with it.
Yeah, or have to spend, $500,000 on it to clean it up to do something with, and then we're not gonna wanna do that. So, well, all right, I'll leave that in there for right now. and
But
then-
you're gonna contact and see if you can get it for lower, just to see.
Right, I'll need
And
to
they
get,
have any
I'll
leeway
need to
there, playroom.
yeah, I think maybe, I just need to get a definite quote on how much tearing down the building would be, and then maybe we could take that off the price.
Yeah, I can do
They're not even gonna take it.
There.
I'm not, that's
That's
a joke.
conflict of interest.
We're kidding.
I'm a joke.
Well, okay, as far as, all right, we'll talk about the marketing and branding project, and then, allocate the 10,000 to the Alliance instead of keeping it for ourselves to do downtown. How do you guys feel about that, all that stuff? Those two things.
Say it again, sorry.
How do you feel about, instead of just keeping that 10,000 for us to do downtown stuff, like we give it to the Alliance and say, here's $10,000, we just put that in there as an annual contribution in our budget. That's $10,000 we give them every year to do economic development or downtown marketing and projects on our behalf. That's why we created them. So it's not a lot of money. It's not going to go very far. It's basically the same amount that we allocate every year for that same purpose. We just give it to them and then say to do that, and then
So what do they do with that $10,000? What's $10,000?
Well, we are looking at setting up some downtown incentive grants. I mean, if we wanted to do like a facade grant, or somebody wanted to replace their awning on the front of their building, or repaint their building, or change out the window panes on their store level front, they could apply for a grant that, if it costs $3,000 to do that, you can get $1,000 back out of the grant, and then that spreads that a little bit farther, however you want to, and that could go to different people, or they could, it is just $10,000. It's not going to go very far, but we don't have really more than $10,000 in our budget to give them. So I think we just start out with what we can, and then if in the future it's found liable to give them more than we can, and as projects come up that we want to use them, we can allocate more to them through that specific project. But really, we would kind of either we say we give this to you to use with grants or whatever else, or you just use it for whatever they want to as far as the downtown.
So in 25, 26, and 99.50, what was that used for? Do you know?
Now I'd have to pull specific expenditure reports to figure out what exactly we spent that
I
on.
don't think it was expended through.
I don't think it's
I don't remember doing it.
I think that was what was left over. I think the $50 was used for something we did for either hometown Halloween or hometown Thanksgiving or something, or Christmas. And
But none of that has been,
Well, we never given any money to the Alliance, and when we budgeted last year for $9,950 to go towards Main Street and downtown development, I don't think we used any of that money for downtown.
not just last year, I think the last year you used some of it when we all went to the
Main
conference.
Street,
Yeah.
but we kind of put those things on hold for right now until we get the allowance.
maybe. Yeah.
Oh, so I'm talking about two different things.
Well,
Yeah.
we
Well, we're
really,
getting the streets.
the allowance is to help with the Main Street thing, because you have to have that.
That nonprofit.
You have to have the nonprofit to be able to go forward with the Main Street.
Right.
So,
Alright.
does that make sense?
Mhm.
They are connected, they are two different things, but they are connected.
That is separate. That would be an annual contribution that we would look at doing every year. I am going to ask you later if a general consensus to give them a larger amount of money as initial seed money, since we haven't given them any money at all. And then the marketing, I've got several different proposals from previous branded project that I did, and they range from anywhere from $12,000 to $60,000, depending on what firm you went with, and what all encompassed that. So I picked one that was in the middle of the road, and we tried to stick to that budget and not be any more than that to do a marketing and branding project for the town.
So how does that typically work? Do you like reach out to, so like that, a small town girl, that she's a branding person. So like, do you just reach out to some of these and say, hey, we're the town of Taylorsville, we're gonna work on a branding program, would you like to make a presentation to, is that how you do it? Or do you like, and give different people chances to come up with stuff that we can look at and decide what we like? Or do you just
You would
pay somebody and get stuck with what they do?
No, you would issue a request for qualifications, and people would submit that, and you would, based off of their prior projects with other communities and how they branded it, and if you wanted to do interviews, you could do interviews, and then you select which one you want to, and then there's like a project committee established, and they work with that committee over 6 to 10 months to come up with that, and then they present to the council periodically through that, and to make sure that the route they're going is in line with what you all like, and then at the end you kind of adopt whatever they propose. So that's how they handle it.
I had multiple calls this morning about a couple different things, and anyway, the last phone call was with Gary and Herman about the fact, or the lack of publicity, branding, marketing for everything that's going on in town. Because like last weekend, there must have been 5 major things that took place in town. And who heard about them? Almost nobody. There's total lack of communication. And I said that to him. I said, there's no communication, there's no central hub. And he said, I agree completely. I am more than willing to sit down. He said, let's all get together and sit down and see if we can figure out a way to address it and get it where everything's getting there. Because like this morning, the first phone call was from a business owner in town that was like, hey, have y'all thought about doing moves at the park? And I said, absolutely. Can we have your candy dish, please? We're in desperate need of it. Thank you. We're doing movies at the park. Or we've talked about it multiple times. I said, we even did it at Christmas, but I said, but I can't find a calendar anywhere that tells me what's going on at the park. I said, there's no calendar out there that I can type in and get to it, unless you can tell me where it is. And he says, I have at the courthouse park. He said, there is